Society gives women a really mixed message. We tell abused women that if you or your children are being harmed by your husband or your partner, you have an obligation to protect your children. You must leave that situation and get to safety. Society, we, are under the impression that when she does take the steps to leave and get out to safety, that the family court system is going to protect her rights and her children's rights to safety and economic stability. Nothing could be farther from the truth. The Department of Justice conducted a study. It's called the Saunders Study, and Dr. Daniel Saunders investigated family courts and to see how their processes work. And what he found was that judges, attorneys, guardian ad litems, which are attorneys for the children, parenting evaluators, they do not have the training necessary to be handling cases that have domestic violence or child sexual abuse in them. So what happens? Really bad decisions are going to be made by untrained professionals. The CDC conducted a study called the ACE study. It's one of the largest medical investigations ever conducted to assess the healthcare consequences to children being exposed to toxic stress. They wanted to find out, what does it do to the body? What they found was that toxic stress caused by domestic violence, child sexual abuse, a drug or alcohol addicted parent, or being separated from your primary attachment parent will cause you to have immediate injuries and illnesses, long-term injuries and illnesses, and it will reduce your life expectancy of as much as 20 years. ACEs are a public health issue. They are related to the 10 leading causes of death in the nation: heart disease, depression, anxiety, cancer. A really good friend of mine, a dear friend and colleague, Lundy Bancroft, and I have been working on a play together. This play is called Forbidden to Protect. For the past 5 years, we've been interviewing victims all over the country who have been failed by our family court system, and their lives have been irreparably harmed by it. Lundy is a national and international domestic violence author, expert, and an expert on child maltreatment. Some of the stories that we are telling are actually the real stories from victims, and we're backing them up with transcripts, so nobody can say, this can't be happening. We're going to give you the real proof. Some of the stories included are Elisa, who's a mother of 2 and married. When her daughter was 12 years old, she tried to commit suicide. Her mother was devastated. When she was at the hospital staff informed her that her daughter was telling them that her husband was sexually abusing her. Like any good mother, she ran to family court. She filed for a divorce and protective orders for her children. She was divorced in New Jersey, moved out of state to raise her children, and had to move into her parents' house in Long Island because the attorney's fees were exorbitant and put her into poverty, fighting to protect her child. Her ex-husband was fighting for custody of those children. Another story would be of Patricia. Patricia is a mom who has 3 children. She was married to an abusive man. He later was convicted of murder. He's in organized crime, admitted to the crime, went to jail, and only served 2 years for a plea bargain. Came out of jail, and then fought for custody in family court. Eventually, her family court judge ordered her and her children to remain in the marital home while simultaneously reducing her alimony, leaving her unable to pay her mortgage. She was going into foreclosure. Eventually, the father got sole custody of those children because she tried to leave the county, not the state, the county, to get a job and provide for her kids. And then we have Tamara. Tamara is a mom who was abused for 20 years. Her husband is a police sergeant. The police reports are of the most horrific domestic violence: pistol whipping her when she was pregnant, beatings, evidence, pictures of domestic violence. She finally, after 20 years, gets a divorce. And that's where family court comes in, because now this psychopathic abuser is fighting for custody of her children, economically destabilizing her, making her unable to provide for her kids. What do these all have in common? Women are receiving second-class status in the United States. Our inequality is ever present in family court. What can we do about this? Well, one of the things that we can do is start to get informed. What I'm telling you is something that we can get information about and step in and try to find out what we can do about it together as a society to stop these injuries and crimes from happening to victims across our country. We need to support our victims. We need to say it is not okay for anyone to harm you or your children, and it's not okay for our family court system to bankrupt you, trying to get to your freedom. Recently, I had 3 members in 1 week period, 3 separate attorneys, be advised that they should drop their restraining orders. All 3 of those cases had enough evidence to probably convict their abuser in criminal court, but family court is a lower court, different standards. The evidence that is needed to convict in criminal court is seen as no evidence at all in family court. All 3 of these women, 3 different attorneys, 2 different counties, were given the same advice. 1, you should drop the restraining order into a civil constraint. A civil constraint is the same as a restraining order. Lie. A restraining order, your perpetrator violates, you call the police, they get arrested. You have a chance at safety. Next, they advised our women, if you don't drop your restraining order to a civil constraint, the judge may turn against you in family court, because the judge is going to see you as unwilling to co-parent with your child's father. And the third thing all 3 attorneys told our members is that if you go through with the restraining order and it affects his career and he's unable to pay support, how are you going to provide for your children? Do you really care about your kids? So what's going on here? What's the Bar Association doing? Family court is a $50 billion industry. Keeping a family in crisis, not providing her and her children with the protections and rights they deserve, puts them in a perpetual downward cycle, and they all make money doing it. Does anyone find this to be okay? Terrific. It's horrific, and it's happening to our women and children in this country today. We are unable to protect our children. Lundy and my play is called Forbidden to Protect for that very reason. Women are forbidden to protect their children in the United States of America. So, what do we do about it? Well, one thing for sure, the public can't protest what we don't know. And the public hasn't known about this because family court has been a secret business. There is no oversight. There are no checks and balances. Nobody is watching them. Family court is policing itself. So we need to step in. We need to rush in and support victims of a crime. Mothers protecting their children. There's a myth that women make false allegations of domestic violence and sexual abuse. But do you know what? The research doesn't support that. The research shows us that in over 96% of cases with allegations of sexual abuse or physical violence, the woman is telling the truth. Yet our courts flip it and believe that maybe only 4% tell the truth and 96% are lying. 1 in 3 women will be beaten or raped over her lifetime. And 80% of children that are sexually abused by a male member of their family, in particular, their father. We need to do something. We need to take action. We need to make this a political issue. This has been invisible as a political conversation. Women's inequality, women's second-class status must become a conversation in the political arena. It's never been before, and we must start today. So I ask you, get informed. Go to our website, nurturedparent.org, and sign up for our newsletter. Ask a victim what you can do to help her heal and receive justice. The ACE study, which is the largest medical investigation ever conducted to associate the health consequences for a child, and we know they're being exposed and court-ordered to be into toxic stress-producing situations that will negatively impact their health and shorten their life for the rest of their lives, they need your help. The Nurtured Parent Revolution, transforming trauma through love, healing, and social justice activism. Fire it up!